You recognize that tune, and you know it's time for Relics Radio. This is a family-friendly show, so the entire family can join us as we talk metal detecting and relic hunting. You can call into the show at 270-495-0315 or join in the chat and post any comments or questions you might have, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. You're listening to Relics Radio of Southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. And you are live again on Relics Radio. On July the 19th, 2018, we're coming to you along the foothills of the Cumberland Mountains, along the Cumberland River in southern Kentucky and Middle Tennessee. I am your host, Digging with Seven.
And I'm your co-host, Tennessee Jeff.
What's going on?
How you doing? Not much, buddy. Did you get out today?
No, I didn't get out today. I had another funeral today, so been tied up on that and didn't get out to hunt any.
Yeah. Well, we've got a trip planned tomorrow, don't we?
Yeah.
What are we going to find?
I don't know. Whatever we can find.
Yeah, I've been doing a little research, and I can't find that old mill site on any old maps. I mean, it's got to date back to the 1700s.
It does. It is way back. And so, there's a good opportunity for us to find something there good in and around that somewhere. It's going to be hotter tomorrow, and it's going to storm tomorrow afternoon.
Well, you're not scared of storms. I've seen you metal detect with lightning striking around you. So, I mean, storms won't bother you. I'll just go back to the truck and watch you. So. But if there's something there to be found, we're going to find it, buddy.
That's right. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to get out and do, because we just haven't done anything in a month or two. We both have equinoxes, and we have not hunted together with the equinoxes.
No, we haven't, have we? Mm-mm. I didn't.
No, we haven't.
We sure haven't.
Sure have not. Who we got in the chat already here tonight?
Well, of course, we got Mark Cougar. There's Barb. There's Ken. Hey, hello, Ken. We've got Chris Hansoff. There's old trusty Woody Jones is in the house. Of course, there's Ohio Relic Hunters in the house. Hello. That's about it right now. So.
We got
Barb.
Yeah,
there's Barb. Sorry, Barb.
There's Tennessee Jeff. He's in the house.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him, too.
I'm going to tell you something, son. We have got a show lined up tonight, don't we?
We sure do, buddy. He's got some stuff that'll get down there deep. And I mean, if you need to find a privy, need to find a trash pit or a hut, this is the guy that's got the tools to do it with. Who we got there, Seven?
Well, before I tell you that, if you talk to me and you about metal detecting, we can tell you a little bit because we've used them, But when you talk ground penetrating radar to this guy, he not only has used it, he builds them, he designs them. And in the research that I've done, this is one of the smartest guys that I know. And we've got Karl Harrar tonight. How are you tonight, Karl?
I'm good. I'm good, Seven.
Good to have you on the show. And tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background so that going into the show, everybody will know what we're dealing with here.
Sure. I'm an electrical engineer, and I basically went to the University of Arizona way back about 32 years ago, and I've been an engineer since, and I've worked at some really interesting companies. I've worked at smaller companies that people, like up at larger companies like Motorola and 3M and Raytheon and the Smithsonian. And currently I work at the Savannah River National Laboratory, and I mainly work on radiation detection equipment that I build, custom equipment. And but I've also, like I worked on both at the Javelin missile, which is a fire and forget infrared guided missile, and the TOW missile, which is also similar, and but it's more, you have to lock on the target. Basically, you have to stay in view. Which the Javelin, you can just fire and run away real quick before the other guys figure out where you're at. That's a good thing to do. So they actually took on, in Operation Iraqi Freedom, they took on like I think 20 or 30 tanks with about 5 or 10 guys. It was 10 guys, and so they hit a few tanks, and there's two modes of the Javelin. This is proprietary or anything, but two modes: a direct mode where you can shoot helicopters, but then there's a tank mode, which basically the missile goes up, comes straight down on the turret, and so you want to use that, of course, for tanks. And I think they hit a few tanks, and most of them stopped, and the guys got out and ran because they were basically sitting ducks from the hill. So that was a really interesting job. I worked there for about 5 years, did a few redesigns and some obsolete. Mainly it was obsolescence. Those we sell different versions of it. Of course, we speak the best for the United States, and we sell the not quite as good a version, but a working version. The not current version to other countries. So we dealt with a lot of other countries in NATO and our friends. So we and the TOW. So I worked there, like I said, for 5 years in Tucson, and I spent a lot of my time in Tucson and in Prescott, Arizona. And I also worked for different companies that made UHF and VHF radios, and I worked at a company that made night vision equipment, which was a real fun company. We made thermal imaging equipment, night vision, and we also made light intensification units, which is basically called night vision. And we made custom sniper scopes and IR lasers, so you could see them with the night vision. IR laser you could see, and we made just custom stuff mainly for special forces. And that was an exciting job because it was a small company, but it got bought out by a large company, and we could basically build real fast prototypes and go test them. And we spent a lot of time at the Scottsdale gun range shooting weapons, and we'd mount them on there and just give them good reliability testing and measure put accelerometers on and measure the different forces and try to break them basically, and then figure out why they just ruggedize them for the military. And some of the thermal scopes for thermal imagers were actually used, which is kind of an interesting story. They're actually used for finding landmines, because the soil above the landmine changes. It gives off heat at a different rate than soil around it because of the insulation from the mine. So at like dusk, you could see them; they would stand out. So they actually saved a lot of lives. And so that was a really fun job. And I've worked at different Volkswagen proving grounds, and I had some shorter term jobs and did some consulting work. And like I said, but the Smithsonian, I forget to mention that I worked at the Smithsonian on a telescope. They're on Mount Hopkins, which is south of Tucson in Sarita, and it's a really originally they weren't able to build large mirrors, and so it would use 6 mirrors and it converged the image. And we replaced it with a single 6.5 meter mirror. And so my job was to basically build a luminizing system that coated the mirror with aluminum. And so that was we actually did it in place, which was the first time that large a mirror had been done in place. Usually they bring it somewhere and bring it up and down the mountain, but we actually put a bell jar around the whole telescope and used 3 different pumps to pump it down, and we used tungsten elements wrapped with aluminum, and then basically you vaporize those with a power system, and you coat it with a real thin layer. It's the angstrom level, 90 angstroms, I think. For the reflector, and so has to be real consistent. So that was a real interesting job. And I also built the system that turned the building, the building was 2,000 tons, and so the building would the telescope would move first, of course, and the building would track it because you wanted to, of course, you only had the door in the front, opening in the front, so it had to track it within a tenth of a degree, and so it would move pretty fast. It got a degree and a half per second, I think, and which doesn't seem fast, but when you're on the outside of it, it's pretty fast. And we had all kinds of issues. Yeah, I mean, when I was building it, we were one of the things is in a system like that, when you have a tuning a loop, a feedback loop system, you have what's called oscillation, and so if you don't damp it out right, it sits there and wobbles back and forth a little bit so it can finally zero things out. And so when I was tuning it, I actually got some people sick because they were saying, it's just wobbling, back and forth. And at one point we threw some desks around the place, and it was pretty interesting. So it was a very fun job, and so.
And the reason that I wanted to bring all that background and everything out is so the listeners know. That you are very educated in all of this. You're a very accomplished electrical engineer, and so you're not just somebody that strapped a metal detector onto a shopping cart and called it a ground penetrating radar. But I've done a lot of analog and digital design and field for FPGA design. I write firmware. I don't actually do my own high level software because I can't do it all. And there's some people that can do it actually better than me. So I stick to the circuits, really the circuit design. And, everybody that's tuned in here has obviously has questions about the GPR units and how they can be used and what have you. So I'm going to let Jeff start out with the first question on that.
Yeah, we got one from Chris. Will a CF belt plate give off a different heat signature than the rest of them? Of course, if anybody should know, you should know. That's for a fact. But the first question I had is on the GPR. How deep will they go?
Yeah, okay, that's a really good question, and that gets asked a lot, Jeff. It has to do relatively with the frequency that you operate at, but the frequency is inversely proportional to the resolution. So as you go higher in frequency, you're going to get more resolution, but it's also you'll lose penetration depth. So it's kind of a compromise. My standard unit that I make is kind of in the middle of the spectrum. It's a 500 megahertz unit, which, to give you an idea, let's say a metal detector does multiple frequency metal detector, like the Equinox or something, or the one of the mine labs, other mine labs. They operate at, usually they go up to 100 kilohertz maximum, and my unit operates at 500 megahertz, which is 5,000 times that frequency. So it's much higher, and so my unit will see. And also, one of the big dependent factors is the soil. So the more moisture in the soil, and actually the more clay in the soil, the worse it sees. So the optimum case is a dry sand. A dry sand, it'll see 12 feet. And I could see resolution down to probably a little more than an inch. So I detect any change within that span. When the clay situation, when you have heavy clay, it'll still see, like my yard has heavy clay, and I can still see pipes 6 to 8 feet down, and I can see 1 inch pipes. So it's all relative to the ground condition. But like I said, I hunt Augusta a lot, and Augusta has a levee on the Savannah River, and they imported a lot of sand also there, and the river would flood like all the time. So they had to put the levee in 1918. So, but there is a lot of sand in downtown, and so I can see a good 12 feet in Augusta, which is really nice to be able to see that deep. Now, when I'm looking for a privy, it's like, I don't have to really see that deep because privies here are probably 8 feet. But when there's a lot of rubble, construction rubble, and other things that things have been, pushed around a lot, it's nice to be able to see that because you're looking for something deeper. You basically look for something deeper than that, 3 or 4 foot of rubble, and they stand out pretty well. So anyway, go back to the story of the depth is, what I'm trying to do is, I've got this 500 megahertz unit, and one of the biggest things, you guys, is the FCC approval. That's very expensive, and everything has to be. The radar is what you call an ultra wideband device, and it broadcasts over a pretty wide frequency. The center frequency is 500 megahertz, but it's pretty wide. So the FCC is very, very cautious, and they're very stringent on their specifications of how much power it can radiate. So I had to send my unit to a special laboratory, and by the time I'm done, and now if you're real lucky if you can get one pass and through and everything's fine, or sometimes it has to go back and forth a little bit, and that can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. So there's a lot of cost in that, and that's what keeps the price high. One thing I can mention about the price of my unit, it's less than a half of everybody else's, because I have very low overhead, and also I developed a way to design the circuit that's much less costly. So getting back, let me keep getting sidetracked here, but get back to the story of the depth. I'm going to build next on my list is a 1.5 gigahertz unit, which is basically 1,500 megahertz. So it's 3 times the frequency of my current unit. It will have a resolution of approximately 1/8 of an inch. So, but it will only penetrate about 24 inches to 30 inches, depending on the soil conditions. But what it's used for primarily is cement inspection. So you're expecting, and also roadways. So you're looking actually for cracks and voids underneath roads. You're looking for, of course, it's really easy to see rebar and conduit. So when you're drilling, if you want to drill, there's nothing in your way. So that unit has a very large market, and so that's my next unit. I have that finished. I'm going to put one on my website pretty soon. I haven't finished, and I'm finishing the transmitter to send it to the FCC lab to get it approved. So that'll be my next unit. And then after that, I have 2 more units I'm going to make. One will be a 250 megahertz, or maybe a 200, but probably a 250. And that'll go twice as deep, so it'll see about 25 feet, and but it'll at half the resolution, so it'll only have about 2 inches or so of resolution. So you lose, like I said, resolution the deeper you go. There are radar units that go hundreds of feet that are down in the 50 megahertz range, but their resolution is several feet. So what's interesting is I don't know if you heard about the P38s that were found in I think they were found in either Iceland or Greenland, but I think it was Greenland. And they actually used GPR to find them, and they were 150 feet deep. They were actually lost during the war, and they found P38s. Yeah. So radar is used, extensively in many, many disciplines. So, it's a very fascinating field.
I know the question that everybody is going to ask, and that is because we're all relic hunters. How do these units translate to, like, digging in Virginia, Civil War hunting, where you're looking for a hut or you're looking for a trash pit? How much can you see? How much of a resolution can you get on those?
Yeah, well, like I said, you can see differences in soil down to inch or so. So if there's any differences in that. Let's say I just found a Civil War site near me that was actually used by the Confederates and the Union troops, and I got permission, which is always a big thing. I always get permission, but to get permission, and I'm going to grade it because it was a camp and it was near the railroad tracks, and So I'm going to look for trash pits. I look for tent huts. I have found some, and basically you can always think of it this way: the more difference in the soil, the better the situation. So the more other foreign materials in the soil, the better it'll stand out. So if you have a hut that has metal in it and has let's say some sort of other fill material or something like that. In Privy's, it's lime and there's actually a copper acid that they put in there that to neutralize things. But so that would stand out really well. So the better and the more disturbed it is, So what I'm basically saying is that, if it's been bulldozed heavy, and that's a big problem because, you're going to, they've been bulldozed, it's been bulldozed down 2-3. The tent pits typically aren't that deep. So, it's going to be harder to see. But if they haven't been, then it's going to be fairly easy to see. And they have different materials in them, like bottles and ceramics and metal. Metal has the best reflection. So you can see, I can see, a cannonball at 8 feet or so, So, I mean, it's you can see things real deep, metal real deep. But sometimes they won't have too much metal. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I'm thinking about making a special unit for tent pits eventually. Like I told you about the 3 models that I want to make, the one I have already in the concrete unit and the lower frequency unit. Mm-hmm. I'd like to make one that's about 700 to 800 megahertz. And I think that would be ideal for trench pits. So it would go, approximately maybe 3 or 4 feet and still have really high resolution, maybe 900 megahertz even. So that would be tuned just to trench pits. One of the things that I've been trying to do is, because I am a hunter, and I'm mainly in the bottles. I love everything. I love relics. I love, even shark's teeth, and I just love finding anything, gold. But what I've been trying to do is basically tune the units to the material, and so basically it gives a different color representation for different materials. And the way radar works is it looks for what's called dielectric coefficient of the material, which is the amount of charge that it can hold. It's kind of a complex theory, but it works off reflections, but the reflections are based on this dielectric constant. And so like I said, the more difference in the soil, the more difference in the material, the better. PVC pipe, ABS pipe, things like that stand out really, really well because they're so much different. The dielectric constant is so much different than the ground. They give a nice parabolic shape. Basically, if you ever seen my website, you'll see these parabolic, kind of like U-shaped, upside down U's. And what that is, it's the surface is a rounded surface. So it basically, when it hits it, when the electromagnetic wave strikes it, it'll come off perpendicular. So it'll form this U-shaped setup. And depending on the shape of the item, like let's say a brick-lined privy, brick-lined privies will have a square kind of U shape, and they're real easy to find because, and a lot of times a brick privy will be 1 or 2 feet below the ground, so you might miss it proven, or 3 foot or 4 foot below that won't start. They knocked off the top of it, they threw some earth, but basically you'll see a nice U shape, and you go over 4 feet, 6 feet, mm-hmm. whatever the width of the privy is. See another one. Then what you do is you just move side to side to make sure it's not a trench, and then you go perpendicular to that to find the other walls. And okay. I go to Charleston a lot. We go to Charleston a lot to find mine privies. People always ask me there because they're all brick lined, and I have a lot of luck finding them in Charleston.
Yeah, we had some questions about interference, sure. Like electrical lines and stuff. But think
sure.
about that for a minute, and we've got a commercial break coming up. We've got to pay some bills.
Okay.
Yo, we've been asked more than once if we got Relics Radio t-shirts.
Yep.
Well, we got some now.
That's right. You tell them, Seven.
Ken and Mark Guthrie at DetecTees.com.
Now that's with 2 T's, Devin.
Has got the official Relics Radio T-shirts.
Now that's with 2 E's, Devin.
It's got the official Relics Radio logo on the front.
And 2 rednecks with a metal detector on the back.
DetectTees.com can handle tees for your club, hunt, or any other promotion y'all may have.
Yep.
So where the folks need to go, Jeff?
www.detecttees.com.
And that's with 2 T's.
That's great.
That sure sounds redneck tonight, doesn't it?
It sure does. I'm gonna give the call-in number. It's 270-495-0315. If any of you guys have questions for Carl, but Carl, we had some questions earlier. What about like power lines or electric fences, something like that? Will it hurt the ground penetrating radar?
Yeah, not usually, because the difference in frequency between 60 hertz, and the ground penetrating radar frequency is there's such a huge difference that it really doesn't couple well. And so I can operate within, I can actually go over electrical lines and that they'll give very good images. So it really doesn't have much effect. So it's not like metal detectors have more problems with electromagnetic fields from those power lines. So radar doesn't. And also my unit is basically, it's a shielded unit, so it only transmits down to the ground and it only receives from the ground. So that basically has a transmitting antenna next to a receiving antenna. So anything that is, let's say it's a power line overhead, it wouldn't couple because there's it's just so well shielded up above the antennas. It's basically a cavity that you can picture. And so even a buried power line, I can go over and it has very little effect.
Okay, all right. So it'll pick up a non-ferrous target a lot better than it will a ferrous target, right? Say if if you're hunting Civil War hut sites, and say that hut site has like a belt buckle laying in it, would it pick that belt buckle up better than it would, say, a horseshoe or something? Or will it pick them up? Are you just looking for disturbance in the ground?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it won't be able to tell a difference between ferrous and non-ferrous and different kinds of metals, but it will see the concentration of them and the larger items. So it'll ignore it. Basically, unfortunately, it would probably mostly would ignore coins and things like nails and things like that, other things like that. You might see small impressions, but larger things would stand out. A buckle would stand out better than a horseshoe just because it's geometry. But like I said, what I'm trying to design is like a 900 megahertz unit that would that you'll be able to make out the images much better for those type of objects. So.
Okay. So we've got a caller in, don't we, 7? Woody Jones?
Yeah, got Woody on. Hey, Woody, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Lloyd. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Carl. Great show, guys. I got a question for Carl. Does the soil conditions affect the GPR? Say, I live in northwest North Carolina where we have red clay soil, but the eastern side of North Carolina, we have sandy soil. Does that affect that anyway?
It does. No, it does. That's probably one of the most important things. Now, it's really interesting, but if it's a drier clay, it doesn't affect as much as a wet clay. And if it's a wetter sand, it affects as much as a dry sand. Like I said, my optimum depth of 12 feet is realized in a dry sand. So, but it doesn't cut that, basically like at my yard, it's pretty silty, and then it goes right in it starts to mix the clay, and then by about 4 or 5 feet, it's pretty solid clay, but I can still see pipes 6 or 8 feet down. So it's not,
well, that's cool.
It does attenuate it, but it still sees pretty deep. Now, one of the interesting things about radar is that when you have a rain, sometimes the accumulation of water in an object actually gives a better impression. So, to give you an example, like a privy, a wood-lined privy pit. The wood is very difficult to see, but if you go over it after a rain, the rain has accumulated and it has actually permeated the wood, right? So it stands out much better. So
it's enhanced the wood there. Yeah, gotcha.
Right. So it kind of just the wood soaks it up for a little while, right? And so you can see them much better. So there's certain times, and interpretation is everything. People look at some of my radar images, radargrams they're called, and they're like, wow, how can you see anything in that thing? But, it's unfortunately you can't, people want me to, I want you to design a unit that I can see a aromatic schnapps bottle or something. And I'm like, well, okay, that'll be maybe a couple hundred years from now. But the thing is, what I'm trying to still do is, I think the 900 megahertz with the 1.5 gigahertz unit, I can actually stack a couple bottles close to each other, and I can see the voids, because obviously, if they're not filled with dirt, they form a void. And the air void I can see pretty well. So I can make out bottles real well at the 1.5. The problem is the 1.5 can only see about 2 feet, 2 feet to 30 inches or so. And if
that's good enough, right? I mean,
for a tent pit. Yeah. It might be just fine. So that's one thing I'm going to be doing is, like I said, I just found this Confederate Yankee site. It was a combination site because I don't know if you know, there's a Battle of Aiken between Fitzpatrick and I'm losing it here. Do you know who the general was in Aiken? Gosh, I can go on and get my book. But so anyway, there was one of the last battles was the Battle of Aiken, and so the troops were here, and I found this great site, and so what I'm gonna do is bring my grader in there and just take the top, 6 inches or foot off of it, and because it had some detail put on it, and then I'm gonna scan it with that. But so it's definitely there's good frequencies exactly for what you want to use it for. Basically you have to compare the frequency versus resolution. And
it's kind of as a detector. You have to figure it out. You have to hit your own program to find out what you want and where it's going to hit in your area.
Right. It's kind of what you're looking for. Since I'm looking for bottles, it was the optimum frequency is approximately 400 to 500 megahertz, and so so that's why I designed that one first.
Right on. Well, man, this is very interesting. This is a great show tonight, fellas, and I'm gonna kick back and listen, let somebody else call. But man, this is awesome. This is the future of metal detecting technology at its finest. So thank you so much, guys.
Hey, thanks, Woody, for the call.
Thanks, Woody.
Great questions.
All right, brother.
One question that I have, and I'm sure that a lot of other people do, is personal application. You using your machine, what have you found?
Let me just real quick. Let me say that was General Wheeler and General Fitzpatrick that fought in there. I just want to mention because there's probably some Aiken people listening that'll come down on me pretty hard. But anyway, what I have found is I'll tell you the first story. I started developing the radars about close to 6 years ago, and I was in Tucson, and I had my prototype unit, and it was basically hunting the Tucson is a pretty metropolitan area, but it has an area downtown Tucson called the Presidio, and it was actually a Presidio fort going back to the 1700s, and it was there's a neighborhood called the Presidio neighborhood, and so I hit that pretty hard in getting permission, and I got permission to a real nice gentleman, and he gave me permission in his yard, and so I just had finished my prototype radar, and I ran it over his yard, and I saw a really nice privy. It turned out to be one of the deepest privies in Arizona. For Arizona, it was very deep. It was 13 feet. And I recovered one of the nice things about Arizona is, if you know anything about privies, is a lot of them are dipped here, and so because of percolation. But in Arizona, they're not dipped; they just fill them all, and so you'll dig a privy with minimum 100 bottles and sometimes 300 bottles.
Man.
I've dug lots of privies in Arizona with 300 bottles in it. I've dug so many bottles. My bed in my truck was full of bottles. 600 bottles was my record. I had to look around for stuff to put it back in the hole. You know, it was like. But anyway, this privy was 13 feet. It was from about an 1885 house, and I got down about 10 feet. It was kind of an interesting story because the guy was rushing me a little bit because he had some family coming over, and to dig a 13-foot hole, I just had one other friend, and it was pretty hard soil. So we got down, and unfortunately, we kind of undermined the hole a little bit. And it's funny, I saw this shelf above me, and I was wondering, we surely shouldn't be doing that. And so the shelf came down on my head. I had a hard hat on, so I only saw a few stars. But so anyway, got that all the way, and we were just going, finding some really nice Arizona Territory drugstores and some beautiful hutches from Tombstone, and just some really, really cool stuff. San Francisco bottles and just lots of miscellaneous stuff, doll heads, the standard doll heads and marbles and all kinds of fun stuff. And found some coins, found a few buttons, but we had to get out of there, and we were down about 12 feet or so. I had this 14-foot extension ladder. It's kind of folds up on itself, and I remember it was only a foot sticking out of it at the end. And I got down to the bottom, and unfortunately, I wasn't in the hole. My friend was in the hole, but that was okay. We were kind of taking turns, and he yelled to me. He said, "Carl, you'll like this one." And I'm like, "Oh," he didn't know much about bottles, so I thought, "Oh, it's going to be a Broma seltzer or something," and so he put it in the bucket alone and picked it up, and the bucket came up, and it was a pint. It was a pint pumpkin seed, just clear, but most of them are clear in the West, and it was embossed, and I looked at it and I said, I knew every bottle in Arizona. I said, that bottle doesn't exist, and it was labeled J.M. Wilkins, grocer on the bottom. It was in the grocery store, and it said Tucson AT, Arizona Territory. And that is the only example of that bottle to this day. And that was pretty exciting for my first, radar, find the first privy and pull that unknown, flask guy. And it was quite a find. But with my radar later on, here I found many pits. And like I said, in Charleston, I found a lot. People always invite me over because they have a hard time finding them, and so they save them up, and they just say, Carl, can you find these? And we've had a really good success rate. I mean, I don't find them all, but I found about 80 or 90% of them. So, and it's possible that the reason why I don't find them is that they're under a building. There's a small outbuilding or something, and you just can't do much about that. I can go inside the building and then look through the floor, and then you say, well, hey, I think I see something, but who's going to let you tear down their outbuilding? So, or you can't tunnel under it, sometimes. So it's but I can see through cement real well. That's one nice thing, and I can see through asphalt. So if you're able, and then there's another question, if you're able to go through the asphalt and maybe repair it, I've had situations in Augusta where I've seen privies, and I've worked out a deal with the owner, say that I'll repair the asphalt and, still split the bottles with you, and that's worked out. Not a lot of people want to do that, though, unfortunately. But yeah. So, did I answer your question? I hope so. But
yeah, that was pretty good. One question I had, well, do you use a metal detector all, or do you just use the GPR?
I do. I tell you, I use a combination of things. What I typically do is when I'll go out, I'm going out to, I've got this great property in downtown Augusta on Sunday, just fantastic property. And it's in the heart. And Augusta was, I believe, if I'm not correct, I think it was a city in 1736. I could be a year or two off, but it's the second city in Georgia after Savannah. But anyway, so I'm going after that on Sunday. And,
Well, that's good.
Hey guys, we got another caller in.
oh yeah.
It's
sorry.
unknown.
It's good.
Who we got?
I'm sorry, I was going to say one more thing. One more thing, just real quick.
Okay,
I didn't really answer that question. What I do is I'll take the radar and I'll sweep, and I can go over a tremendous amount of land. Probing just is terrible. I mean, probing can beat the hell out of you, and you can probe a lot and be so tired it's hard to dig a hole. I have a probe that's called a slam probe made by T&T Tool, and it just beats the hell out of you, but you can get through just about anything. And you get out through that first shell, and then you can probe. But by the time you've laid, 100 probe holes or more or something, you're just beat. What I can do with the radar is I can go over a huge amount of land, let's say 100 by 100 lot, and I can do it in maybe 45 minutes or so. What I do is I lay a flag. I put a flag down in every spot I see, and then what I do is I go back and probe it. But I'm only putting 6 flags down, and 4 or 5 of those are trash pits or privies. So that's a very good success rate, and also the rest of them are probably just a pile of bricks or something like that, or a tree, an old tree hole that people filled in with some kind of other garbage, and I can't be 100%, but it's very, very good. So I can cover a huge area real fast. Sunday, what we're going to actually do, which is fantastic, is I'm going to go right in front of the backhoe. So the backhoe will be following me. So I'm just going to point, and the backhoe is going to open it up.
Man, you can't beat that. So
No,
who we got on the
that.
line? Who we got on the line, Seven? Keep that in mind, Carl.
I don't know. Who's on the line?
This is Chris.
Hey, Chris. Chris,
How you doing?
You had some
Good.
questions?
I'm doing good. Thanks, guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. This is really interesting. I've got very limited experience with one of these, and I've wanted to take a class on it and was signed up, and then something happened. And I had for work, and I had to go do something else. I had a couple questions. One was for our work in general. We use our GPR usually in conjunction with the highway patrol or something to look for bodies. And where we have the most trouble with it, I think, is whenever we're looking for, as weird as it sounds, it comes up, I mean, not a lot, but every couple of years, a body in a 55-gallon drum in a lake or a pond. And, and we have trouble with that. We tow them in a raft over that pond. And I was wondering, I don't know what frequency it operates, but I thought, well, maybe with yours with different frequencies, you could tailor something for that.
If the tanks, obviously, let's say a body's in a 55-gallon drum and they've weighted it so, it sinks. And to basically go through the water, the lowest frequency, the water has a real high dielectric coefficient, so it attenuates the signal a lot. What's really interesting is ice doesn't. Ice, it actually has a lower coefficient, much lower, so you can see things real much better through ice. But the thing is, it is possible. I'm actually, it's on my list, and I would love to develop a underwater radar. Just that you would drag across the bottom of the pond or lake or river, and that would be able to see, mainly be used for like fossils, finding fossils and finding large maybe differences in geological differences, and also maybe bottle dumps and things like that. But the problem with a drum is you would probably be better off using a magnetometer because that. Basically, if you know how a magnetometer works, is basically the Earth's magnetic field gets disturbed by, believe it or not, that 55-gallon drum disturbs it. And so they have water magnetometers. Fisher has them. That's an older company. I don't think there's other companies that have them, but that would probably work the best for you.
Okay, a magnetometer, is it going to matter if the drum is plastic versus steel?
Correct. It would. That would be real difficult. If you had a plastic drum and you had a body in it, that would be very, very difficult. That would be a true challenge because the void isn't that big, inside the drum. It could be filled with water too, obviously, to weight it down, and other material. So it would be it would be very, very hard. You could use. Have you tried using sonar or anything like that?
No, all they did was I rigged them up a set of neodymium magnets, and to drag the pond with these neodymium. That way, if
gotcha.
It's a steel drum, hopefully.
But if it's plastic, that wouldn't work. But, yeah.
Exactly.
So I would actually look into these. These fish finders are just incredible, and the resolution on them is just incredible. So the topology of the bottom of the ground.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
Sorry,
fish finder.
That's a great idea.
No. The fish finders are just incredible now, and I've seen some that work so well. And also, I mean, I actually use a camera sometimes. I actually scuba dive too, so I use a camera, and the cameras have gotten so good, and they have such good lights on them that they can cover quite a bit of area. But either that, but the fish finders using acoustics, ultrasound, they cover a much larger area, and they actually map the bottom of the surface. So you should be able to see that drum. Of course, the problem is, if there's a big rock or boulder or something else, it's going to confuse you. And then what you could do, here's what I would do, is I would run that sucker over it, and then I would drop the camera, and then I would dive. So,
Chris,
I'd have kind of a three-step process.
Y'all hold this thought for a minute. We've got to pay some more bills. We've got another commercial coming up.
If your passion is metal detecting, then you know how much your success is based on the equipment you use. Let my buddy Tim Henderson of Murray Branch Outdoors in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, help you with that. Tim is an authorized dealer of Garrett, XP Deus, Tesoro, and macro detectors and supplies, and he is now an authorized dealer for MineLab. So, if you're looking to get your hands on the new Equinox 600 or 800, then Tim is your guy. Murray Branch Outdoors is not only competitive in their prices, but the service after the sale is second to none. Tim not only sells detectors, he uses them, and so he can answer any questions you might have. Murray Branch Outdoors also deals in used detectors, and he'll take your old detector in on trade when you decide to upgrade. So give Tim of Murray Branch Outdoors a call at 615-948-4611 and be sure and tell him Relics Radio sent you.
Okay, guys, we're going to give another shirt away. The person that wins this time is the first one to guess who found the first capped half dime on our videos. So, Digging with 7 videos. The first capped half dime. So.
Okay, Chris.
Hey, can I ask Carl another question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't mean to cut you off, but...
Oh, that's okay, but that was great information, Carl. Thanks. I don't know that anybody's thought of that, but I'm going to switch gears on you here. What's the learning curve like on sorry if you've already covered this, but the learning curve on that GPR?
No, I haven't covered it. That's a very good question, and that comes up a lot because people are, when they first see the radargrams, they're like, oh my God, what is that? And it does, there is some learning, and there's a professor, Lawrence Conyers, that out of Colorado University, and he's probably the foremost expert on radar, and he's a good friend of mine, and he wrote a lot of books, and there's a book just on archaeology which goes over the interpretation of the radargrams, and that's probably one of the best books to get. You can get it used on, I think the retail price is $100, $200, but I've seen them as low on Amazon, very good condition for $30, $40. So I always recommend them. I need to put, Lawrence Conyers. It's Conyers, and Conyers. You'll see them. It's on Amazon, and I can even, just go to my site and just, if you want to just fill out the form, and I'll send you the exact book, the picture of it. I think I'm going to put it on my site, just to maybe sell some, just at my cost or something, and try to, because that is the best book for interpretation. It's hard for me to explain every different aspect the interpretation, because you want to look, if people want to look for cavities, if they want to look for bodies, if they want to look for, there's different, there's different radargrams, and just things gives you hints, and then you can look. Sometimes you have to do perpendicular sweeps over things, and you can get different information. And like anything else, there's a learning curve. Just like metal detectors. I mean, people always say, well, what's the best metal detector? And I tell them, hey, it's the one you use the most. They're all. I mean, I think there's a lot of good metal detectors out there, but it's just the one that you spend the time with, and you spend the time learning how to use it, and you be comfortable with it. So
that's what it sounds. It does. It sounds a lot like just learning the metal detector and spending 100. We joke about putting 100 hours in on the detector before you're.
That's oh, sure. No, I think you're right. And people don't. Unfortunately, they want something right now, and it's something. But the radar. What I tell people, here's what I tell people when they buy one. I say, go first. Just start on your yard. Just go out and look at some PVC pipes. I can show you how to tell the difference between electrical wire pipe, or a metal pipe and a PVC pipe, and then the next thing we do is if you have a septic tank, look at that, and you just look at a bunch of things. And then what I tell people to do is, if you've dug a tent pit, just go over that existing pit and see what it looks like. It'll look different than it first looked, but it'll look similar. And then what I'm trying to do is actually design. I have a lot of filters built in my units. You can actually tune the thing to find different materials. So, and you can peak it for different materials. So that's something that I try to explain to people how to do. But I set some pre-filters up that are basically that are real good at finding just about everything. What I'm trying to do now is I'm actually developing a really user-friendly platform that will say, it'll come up and say, what do you want to find? Pipes, metal, pipes, plastic. What do you want
meteorites?
To find? Voids? Do you want to find caves? Do you want to find privies? Do you want to find tent pits? So it'll actually use a filter that's been tuned for that purpose. Yeah, and not too many companies make that. I don't think anybody really makes that now. The companies I compete against are huge, and they make real good equipment, but they charge a lot of money for their equipment. So they're all keep the price pretty high. They have a lot of overhead. They have, like I said, the FCC testing costs a lot of money, and so there's a lot of cost involved. But I have right now, I'm still working part-time at a government lab, and so I don't have a lot of overhead. I contract all my work out. I have several engineers working for me. I have a software engineer, a mechanical engineer, draftsman. I have a couple assemblers. So I kind of keep I keep a low overhead. So that's why I keep my price low.
That's pretty nice.
It really is.
Yeah.
The ones that you use and then you go rebuild another one, you sell those, right?
The one I have one main unit that I sell right now, the 500 megahertz unit, and it has both Android and Windows software. So you can use the Android tablet with it, and I just about done. I've got actually the software done. I'm going to release it so it'll work with an Android phone also. And but tablets are pretty inexpensive. The biggest thing with the display is, of course, seeing it in the daylight, in sunlight, in bright sunlight. So you can I tell people, what I try to do is work with people. I try to tell them, the basic unit, what I sell it, and you could just buy that, and you can use your own Android tablet, your own notebook computer, running 7, 8, or 9 Windows 10, 7, 8, or 9, or 7, 8, or 10, and you can also build your own cart. I have a cart they sell that I show people how to build their own cart real inexpensively. And also, the only thing is the wheel encoder. I use a wheel encoder. I'll tell you why. Because my first unit basically take data all the time. So you drag it, and it would kind of take data at a slow walk. And when you'd stop, it would continue to take data, and it was harder to pinpoint. So you'd have to drag it the other way, or you roll it the other way, and you kind of have to put two markers down. One when you first see it one way, and one when you first see it the second way, going in the other direction, and the target's in the middle, which it wasn't that bad. I mean, I was really good at it and did enough in hours, but I have what's called a wheel encoder now, and the wheel encoder actually sends pulses to the unit to tell it that it's moving, and it's moving backwards also. So what you do is as you start moving, it just starts taking samples. You stop, it stops, the screen stops. What you can do is you saw something, a target that was 5 feet back. Well, when you move the unit back, it displays a line that pulls back over the existing video and pinpoints that target right on the target is in the middle of the unit, so it's right there, and it's within an inch. You can't miss it. So it's very, very accurate. So that's one thing I sell with it. But like I said, I work with people. You can add on pieces to it later. What I've tried to do is design the system that's modular. It's not like a metal detector that you have to buy a new one all the time. What I've designed is that you can it's modular. So when I do update it and get it FCC approved, again, you can just send me your old unit back and I'll just change the modules out. So it'll be much less cost. So you'll be able to use a lot of, save a lot of money that way. And no other company is doing that.
Okay.
They always want to say a complete new unit.
All right. We had another question in here. What's the deepest unexpected relic you've ever found with the GPR?
Well, gosh, relic-wise, I found a lot of officer buckles, just half of them, and I actually found a snake buckle with it, which was a real interesting. I got a picture of it, but it's a real interesting snake buckle, and it's actually very, very simple, and people have told me that it's pre-Civil War, possibly that it's that old. And I found lots of cannonballs, lots of mortars, things like that. Probably the buckles. I don't typically go for that many relics. I'm mainly a bottle collector, so I'll go for privies and trash pits and things like that. But in those privies, of course, you'll find a lot of, buttons. And, I found a lot of Civil War buttons, a lot of, nice coins, tokens, and everything, because I'll screen it if I can, too. Or I'll use a metal detector on it.
Yeah.
And usually I'll screen it because I just like screen it. When I'll throw the dirt back in, I'll try to put a screen over the hole and screen the whole thing. And but like I said, I just started getting into tent pits. I found this really good site where the Confederates and the Yankees were. So I'm going to be doing that in the next few months. Probably when it cools down a little bit, I'm going to go grade it. I've got a tractor, so I'll bring it up.
Any chance you would shoot a video of this, Carl, and put it out on YouTube?
I will. One thing I tell you one thing I've been terrible about, and is doing videos, and I'm going to start doing lots and lots of videos of everything I do. I'm probably going to start on Sunday with that big dig we have downtown, because it's going to be I think it's going to be incredible. Actually, tell you a story about that. Is I found the privy, and I dug it. There wasn't that many bottles to it, but what there are is these, and this is really interesting, but they don't have them typically in Arizona. Is they have these cleanouts where the honey dippers, they call them, or the guys that would come at night and clean the privies out, one of the worst jobs in the world, and they would bucket it out. They would actually, a lot of times, and Augusta had an ordinance that they wouldn't take it away. They wouldn't put it in drums like they do I think they did this in Baltimore and other cities like that. They put it in drums and then bring it to some marsh or something and throw it in there. What they do is they'd simply bury it in the same yard. And then they'd have these cleanouts that were right next to it. They'd knock out a few bricks down like maybe 2 feet, and they would have an area in the back and then put a board over something. And they'd pull all the bottles into that. So actually, I didn't have enough time. There was construction going on and stuff like that, and I got kind of thrown out of there, even so I had permission. And I had to wait till till now, till they were done. So I'm going back, and hopefully we'll hit that clean out. And this was a Ponel pit, and which is, I don't know if you know what Ponel bottles are, but they're basically where they held the bottle with a rod with a piece of glass on the end, and then they ripped and there was an iron Ponel too. But anyway, the open Ponel, they would break it off, and it would leave a sheer kind of glass mark on the bottom of the Ponel. And those are very desirable bottles. They're real early. They're 1850, 1840, and before, of course. And so this was a Ponel pit, and it did have some Civil War buttons in it too. And so there's probably, there could be a buckle or something in too. So, and they discarded a lot of clothes in the privies too after the war, it seems like. So either the people were sick, and they just and I'm trying to dig a hospital actually that was a Confederate hospital, and just imagine the amount of uniforms that were thrown in that pit.
Gosh, that's so interesting. Any chance, if you have a YouTube channel existing, can you post it in the chat? Or if you've got one.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's what I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna try to put them on YouTube and then put them on my website also, which is www.easyradarusa.com, and so I'm going to put it on that, and also my Facebook pages. I have a personal and a business Facebook page, so I'm going to put them on everything.
Okay, well, I'll get on there, and I'm going to get off and let someone else call in. But it was interesting talking with you, Carl. I'm enjoying the show. Thanks so much.
Thanks for calling, Chris.
Hey, guys. Yeah, thanks, Chris, for calling in. We got one more commercial, and we'll be right back. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the metal detecting world, then you need to be a subscriber to American Digger magazine. Butch and Anita Holcomb are the publishers of the magazine and have won awards for 3 straight years for being the best digger magazine on the market. American Digger magazine is available in both print and digital formats, so no matter where you live in the world, you can enjoy the latest happenings in the hobby. You can get in touch with American Digger magazine by going to americandigger.com or give them a call at 770-362-8671 and be sure and tell them that you heard it on Relics Radio.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'll give the call-in number again. If you've got a question for Carl, it's 270-495-0315. And I've got a question, and I want to know if Carl's coming to DIV in the spring, digging in Virginia.
Well, I hope to. Actually, I'm waiting for kind of an invite, but I think it might happen. So, do you know Bruce Adwell by chance? You ever heard of him?
I don't know him personally.
Bruce. Yeah, Bruce lives in Virginia, and he goes to it every year. He gets invited to it, so it's kind of an invitation-only thing, as far as I know. And but I would love to go. So, and I would love to bring a couple different units there, and see what works the best for that environment.
I tell you what, we'll see what we can do on that.
That'd be great.
Talk to Rose and them, and if you'll find us a pit, right, Jeff?
That's right. I'm sure you would stay busy,
sure.
And I'm sure there's several guys here on the comments section that would actually pay you some money to find the pit for them. So,
I don't have to pay money. But, I just want to. I'm a hunter. So it's like I just enjoy people playing and stuff. So,
I just think it would be so interesting to have you at DIV. And if we get a site that had huts, which would be a winter site and everything, but it'd be interesting to find some and then dig them and then document all of that. And I put your website in www.easyradarusa.com, and
that's correct.
You can go and check all that out. Before we go on to any more questions or anything, though, Jeff, did we give a shirt away?
Yes, we did. We give it away to Junkyards, Carl. What was Yeah, the yard dogs. I'm sorry, Carl. Yeah, there it is. I had it wrote down and all this stuff, and I was trying to find it. Yeah. Congratulations. He just left a comment on the comment section.
My chat is locked up now, but congratulations, Carl. You got a Relics Radio T-shirt, and you can wear that proudly.
Sure can. So,
have you got another?
Get with 7 and
that's another Carl that got it too. Another Carl with a C. Okay.
Yeah. It's Carl with a C. And I noticed on his video today that he got that new 6-inch coil for the Equinox too.
Jeff, I thought about getting on Facebook to some of my friends over the pond and see if they would buy one and ship it to me. But no, I haven't done it yet. So,
you guys like our Equinox? Is it the Equinox 800?
We've got the 600 is what we're using.
The 600.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I read there's not a whole lot of difference between the two.
No, there's not. Yeah, we love them. We love them. I tell you what.
No,
great.
Yeah. When I saw the specs on it, I was very, very impressed. As in engineering specs and stuff, I very impressed.
Well, you might talk about that. You might talk about that a little bit. What impresses you about the specs coming from a electrical engineering background?
Yeah, well, I think that the multi-frequency aspect of it looked really good, and they seem to pick the best frequencies of operation, and they have just enough. So it's I think that's why we were able to bring the cost down from the other units they have. So what they did is they kind of just figured out exactly what was necessary and what wasn't. And the thing is, you got to understand when you're sending signals out like that there's a time that takes to send those signals out. So if you're sending signals out that aren't really that useful, it's going to take time. So your sweep speed's going to be less. That's like, you can sweep really fast with that probably, and so which is really nice. So you can swing it really quick, and it'll also pick things out better too. So they've optimized things, and at the same time they brought the price down, which is really, really nice. A really good thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, it really is.
Like I said, once I have one, I'd like to get one, and then I can give you a really good review on it or something. But on technically a review, go over the technical part of it. They're not going to release, unfortunately, their schematics and things like that. And I can't really analyze it that well, but it's
no, that's
but
that's all top secret, I guess.
Right. No, you bet. And what I'm trying to do, I'm also bringing out. This is kind of on my list. It's like I said, the concrete radar, the low frequency. I have a radar that I'm going to build that you can carry above the ground, so it doesn't have to make contact with the ground. The only thing that's going to be difficult to get FCC approved, but I'm going to try. And what'll be really nice about that is that the terrain won't matter that much, because right now the radar works best when it's in contact with the ground. But in an air launch system like this, you can carry it over rare, very rough terrain, and it won't matter at all. It'll be very light. So, but one thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to build a multi-frequency unit. But while at the same time, what it'll do is it will work at two different frequencies, or maybe 3, which will give you the depth and the resolution. So those units are very, very expensive. There's a few companies that make them, but they're up in the $25,000 to $30,000 range. And I think I could build one for the 10 range. So that's something I just need more time. That's all. It's like anything else, just more time to work on it.
Yep. Hey guys, we got another caller in, Denny Morrison. Hey Denny.
How you doing, Roy?
Hello, Denny.
Doing great.
Howdy. I know I got in on the tail end of this. You guys started about 8 o'clock, and I missed about most of the show. But what's the speaker's name?
Carl.
Carl?
Yeah.
Hey, Carl, you ask about DIV and you want to get an invite. All you have to do is sign up for mytreasurespot.com, put your name in there in your file. Are you already a member?
No, I don't need to join, of course. But
okay, all you have to do is put your name in the profile and your email address. And the next time they have a sign up, which will be in the spring, they've already closed the sign ups for this fall hunt, 2 hunts in fact. They're back to back. And if you get picked, you get picked. And I'm sure a lot of people will put a good word in for you with Miss Rose and John Kendrick. I've been hunting there since DIV 10, and we're now on DIV 42 or 43 and 44.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Denny, is both of them at Beauregard this time?
No, sir. They're at Beauregard and the Excelsior camp.
Okay.
And you talked about the penetrating machine that you have. George Leach used one of those for many a years at DIV, and he had a motor on his, which took it around. All you had to do is hold the handle down, and it would drive around to wherever you wanted to go. You didn't have to really push it because there's some big mountains over there. You just don't walk up and down those things.
Yeah. It's there's all different kinds of units. So a lot of people get confused with different types of magnetometers and different magnetometers and ground penetrating radar units. So I don't know what kind of unit. Do you remember who it was made by?
No, I do not. I know he had one of the first observer out. He had a screen on it, and he'd show me different wiggles on the screen and say, yeah, this is something. And usually we dug down. A lot of times we dug down, and we did find pits, mostly bottles. But those pits could be 4 feet deep.
Right.
You know, have you ever been to White Oak Museum in north of Fredericksburg?
No, I sure haven't.
Well, you need to go there. You need to go there and get an education. Because those 2 boys, a man and a son, built this museum in a schoolhouse. Everything they put in this museum is from metal detecting. And anybody in Virginia, in fact, the Smithsonian sends people down to the White Oak Museum to see their relics from the Civil War. But they have at least they have at least 4 or 5 huts that they built, hand built from the GAR papers, and most of them are 4 feet deep. They build a log cabin in the ground. Is what they do. Did you know about the hut?
Yeah.
They put a log cabin in the ground, and then you put your tent on top of that. Go ahead, Loy.
Yeah.
So you're looking for the barrel bands. What you're looking for? That's what we look for with the metal detector, with our GPXs, is the barrel band. That's what we're looking for.
For the barrel bands, okay.
And then, of course, we use a probe. So along with your machine, you want to take a probe along so you can down. John Kendrick makes a wonderful probe. It's called a singing probe. And if you hit glass, it'll sing to you.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I tried to contact the Singing Probe website like several times and couldn't get any response. But I actually buy mine from I actually make some of them, but I buy mine from the Old West probes in California. It's a little far, but
these are far better than anything I've ever seen. I've seen tile probes.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just couldn't get any. And I emailed them 3 or 4 times. I couldn't get any response. So I don't know if they were just.
You need to send an email to John Kendricks via mytreasurespot.com. He'll tell you everything you need to know and how to get how to get one. They're not that expensive.
No, they usually aren't. What I typically do is I'll scan an area and as I see something, I'll take a screenshot of it, and I can take GPS coordinates of it too. But what I do is I'll just drop a flag first of all, and then I'll go back and I'll probe it because there's nothing like a probe. I mean, but the thing is, it'll save me so much time in probing because a big lot you spend a day and then you're so worn out by probing. And some areas, of course, it's so hard. I have to have a slam probe. I was telling Jeff and Loy about that has basically like a sliding hammer on it, and it'll go through the first foot, and then you can probe through that. But it just beats you to death, and you get blisters all over your hands. And I've broke them because I've pounded so much. So it saves you so much time, and usually with the radar, like I'll mark out 5 or 6 spots in the 100 by 100 area, and 4 or 5 of them are either trash pits or privy. So I'm pretty good success rate, So
that is a great.
And
we actually have a guy at DIB who does not use a metal detector. He only uses a probe. And you ought to see seen him find
a tough guy.
rings, hundreds of bottles. It's crazy.
Yeah. What was his name, Denny? I've met him, and then actually I probed with him for a little bit, and I can't remember his name.
Right offhand, I can't tell you. I can see his face right now in his probe for sure.
That's right.
In fact, I have a picture of him probing right near where I found my first rest plate at Brandy Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's great.
Hey, Carl, with metal detectors, the technology has come so far that you can do so much now with a metal detector that you couldn't years ago.
Right.
I suspect that the same it is the same with the ground penetrating radar, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that as the resolution, basically, what you're doing is you're detecting this reflection of the signal, and you're breaking it up into small pieces. So the smaller the pieces you can break it up, the better the resolution. So basically it has to do with you basically digitize the signal into like 8-bit or 16 or 24 bits or 32 bits even. And as that gets better and better, you can resolve more information from it, and you can filter it better and pull more information out of it. So that's getting better and better all the time. And I'm actually building a new receiver that's much better, and but it'll take me a while, unfortunately. But so I'm constantly trying to improve the product, and everybody else is. So yeah, I suspect I don't know how many years it'll be, but they'll have pretty soon they'll have imaging process imaging and technology that you can make things out better, actually shapes and of objects and densities, and things like that. So you'll be able to maybe tell that it's a buckle, and it's a brass buckle at 4 feet or something, So eventually things will get there, but it's just it's an evolution, So
and you should be able to do more with resolution, because when you're talking about a hut or a pit, you're not talking about something that's 25 foot deep.
No, that's right. That's right. So the shallower the better the resolution is right now. That's why I'm so excited about just getting my 1.5 gigahertz may do really, really well. Like I said, I can see bottles with the 1.5, but only at about maybe tops about 30 inches, which is 2.5 feet. So what I'd like to do is back that up a little bit, maybe to a 900 megahertz or so, and I can go down at least 4 feet, maybe 5 feet, and I'll still have really good resolution. So, maybe I'll go up a little more, but I need to do some more experimenting on just what the best optimum frequency is for like a 10 pit, or making out that information. So, it just takes time, and so I actually was building all the units myself for quite a while, and I realized, I can't go anywhere doing that. So I finally farmed it all out, and now I have the time to do the R&D work that I need to do and develop a new product. So hopefully we'll be accelerating that real soon.
Yeah, so most of your previes that you've found, how deep have they been? Mm-hmm. I remember you saying earlier.
Yeah, they're, in Augusta, they only seem to be about 8 feet, which is a fairly shallow privy. In Arizona, like I said, that first one I found with the radar was 13 feet. So the nice thing is that you don't really have to see, obviously down that far, because the ground is so disturbed. Let's say the optimum situation is a place that hasn't been bulldozed that hard. If it's been bulldozed, 2 or 3 feet, it's still not bad. But if it's been bulldozed and turned over 6 to 8 feet, that's really tough, because it's at the same depth as the privy. But a lot of places, it's hardly ever I go where there's something that's been that turned over. So what I'll look for is I'll just look for anything that's over 4 feet. I'll look for a pit that's over 4 feet deep, and then I'll just mark it with the flag, probe it, dig a test hole, and usually glass comes out right away or something. I can tell trash right away, and so like I said, it's it's in an 80% area, which is pretty darn good. So to probe out 100 by 100 area, if you probe out every 4 feet or so, that it'll take you hours and hours and hours. I can cover 100 by 100 area in probably 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. So we've got another caller. Who's on the line?
Sure.
Hi. This is Fred calling from New Jersey.
Hello, Fred.
I have a question. I just started listening to your show, and I see that it's about ground penetrating radar.
Yes.
And I have a question for your guest. I'm in the rings, ring finders. I'm a ring finder, and somebody contacted me to try to find a time capsule in a schoolyard.
Yeah.
But, I was kind of interested in it, but he told me the thing is buried 6 feet deep. Now, who would bury a time capsule 6 feet deep? I don't know. And he says they don't know the exact location. They can get it down to within 5,000 square feet, which is like a 50 by 100 area.
Right.
Now, would ground penetrating radar detect something that deep? A metal box?
Well, if it's metal, definitely. How large a metal, the larger the better. If it's a foot by a foot or something, or
I would think it's probably I think it's at least a foot square.
If it's going to be that big. Mm-hmm. It's going to be. You said it's going to be about 6 feet or so. They think 4 to 6 feet.
That's what he told me. I was kind of shocked.
Yeah,
6 feet. I mean,
Yeah.
That's
pretty wild.
Industrious kids. I mean, they're out there like grave diggers.
No, that's right. You know what? I found I looked for a lot of unmarked graves, and it's amazing how many people aren't buried 6 feet because they're just
really?
lazy, and especially I find a lot of slave graves and off to the side of the main graveyard and stuff, and they're not buried deep at all. So it's really interesting with the burials. What's really interesting, an unmarked graveyard and how many graves are not marked. Probably 60% or more aren't marked.
Wow.
It's kind of sad because some of the Civil War, tombstones were actually cast iron. They were stolen, and some of them sink, and some of them, and I pull a lot of headstones out of the ground, but anyway, getting back to your story, I don't want to get off on that because I want to answer the question.
I was at Montpelier. I did some digging at Montpelier with the with their program where you work with the archaeologists, and they were doing that very same thing, marking out the slave graves, and you could actually see depressions where the slave graves were because they weren't buried that deeply.
That's right.
You can see where the leaves collected.
Sometimes you can, and you can. But the thing is that I can tell on a graveyard. I can tell if there's a casket, if there's no casket, if it's a metal casket, if it's a wood casket. I can tell the depth. I can tell if it's a child or an adult. I can tell if it's a husband and a wife. I can tell if you get enough data from a graveyard, you store that information and you compare the unknown graves to the known graves. You can tell within probably, I've hit them between 10 years of when they were died. Because what happens is I'll find an unmarked grave, and I'll look at it and I'll compare it to my library real quick, and I'll say, it looks like it's. I did it one the other day, and I was like, I think this is going to be 1880, and the headstone was there. I pulled it up. It was like 1890. So it was like very, very,
How do you determine the age? What data are you using? Data of decomposition or something?
Yeah, I mean, basically everything decomposes, and also the casket and everything else. So the amount of reflection you get from the decomposed material, it just varies. And so you can tell by just looking at the amount of reflection you get and the coefficient, the dielectric coefficient, you can kind of tell. That's why if you have a lot of other information, because I plotted maybe 20 other graves that were between 1850 and 1920. And so I just kind of went over them and I said, that looks a lot like that one, So, it was just, it was, so that's kind of interesting.
What if it was a really old grave, like from the 1700s or something? Would it be like giving you a very hazy reflection because it's so decomposed?
Yeah, you still get a pretty good what you can actually see is you can still see on those things. You can see the walls, the basically where because the ground doesn't compact as well, even over that long a period. It's amazing, and I can see the shaft, the grave shaft. And
wow.
I might not be able to see a good reflection for the body or the casket, but I can see the actually the shaft. So
you
can
on tell that's where the
1700s graves. The 1700s graves. And getting back to I'm sorry. Yeah,
getting back to my original question.
Yeah, sorry. I always get sidetracked. Getting back to your time capsule, but that would give a really good reflection and that metal, and I'm almost positive with my 500 megahertz you could find it pretty easily.
Okay.
And also, but the thing is, you'd have to, obviously you're going to have to go over it. So what you're going to have to do is put stakes down and strings, or and just kind of move them over as you go on that area, and just make sure you don't miss any areas, because it's fairly small. So the signal, just real quick, one thing. That the signal doesn't radiate like a laser beam. It's not straight. It flares out. So basically it flares at about a 45-degree angle or so. So you don't have to be directly over it, but you have to get it close. And so that 45-degree angle, that would matter, how deep it is. And if it's metal, it's actually going to have more chance of hitting it if it's within reason. If it's within that 4 to 6 feet, you're probably going to be, at the top. You could be within 4 feet or so, at least, a couple feet either way. So that helps.
Is it like metal detecting that you can pinpoint it by going over it in various, like Xing it out?
Yeah.
Is that how you pinpoint the location? Okay.
Yes. Well, so, what you do is you'll see an image. You'll see basically a very, very good reflection, and it'll be multiple reflection for metal. Metal is really easy to see. And it kind of gives a really good display. And so what you do is you basically take the unit and just go backwards, and it'll move a line back over that. You pinpoint it, and it's right in the center of the box. Right in the center of the box. And then you can go over it perpendicularly to make sure it isn't like a pipe or something else. And you can tell real well if it's box. So,
if it was a pipe, it would give you a long reflection. I guess.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Just like a trench versus privy. You want to make sure it's not a trench, and that's easy to do. And so there's just it just takes time. It's not an instantaneous thing.
He asked me to do it, and I have none of that equipment. If I was going to get somebody involved in that, I'm in New Jersey. I know Frank La Pergola, I think his name is, from the Detecting America. I think he does it, ground penetrating radar also. Would that be something that somebody hires out to do something like that? Like if I wanted to get somebody interested in it, like bring somebody on board?
Yeah, you can.
How do I?
What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to rent my units too. I haven't had the advantage. I've been selling units as fast as I can make them. So it was real difficult so I had to make the choice eventually, I said I have to farm this out. So right now I've been training 3 people, and they're doing really well. And so now I don't have to build them myself. So I've been going over, to the R&D section and just finishing the other units. But what I'm trying to do is I've actually built stock now, which was very difficult to do before because I was just selling them too fast. So with these other people, I built stock. So now I can rent them, and so I'm going to try to have some for rentals out for people, so they can rent them, and if they just want a limited case, try it out, things like that. And also,
where are you
can
located?
hire people. I'm located in Aiken, South Carolina. So
you're in South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm in South Carolina, which is really close to Augusta. We're just across the Savannah River from Augusta, and but shipping's not a big deal, and
sure.
But what I'm trying to do is get 2 or 3 units that'll be dedicated as rentals, and so I can just get those out to people, and I should have that done in a month or so.
Okay, and I don't know the technology that well. I'm more familiar with metal detectors, but I know they have these 2-box units. What is the difference between a 2-box unit and your ground penetrating radar? Is there is one much better than the other for that type of thing? Yeah,
a 2-box would probably work for you. I mean, it's possible. the TM800 or there's different units. White's made a couple,
Right.
and then there's a Discovery made actually a really good one that's discontinued, a TM, what is it called, the 900, TF900. I had a couple of those, and those are electromagnetic machines, so they work on real low frequency magnetic fields, and they work just really similar to a metal detector. So,
Right.
The problem is ground balancing those things is pretty hard, and the thing is that they're prone to pick up. If you're in a schoolyard, you're not away from power lines and things like that, and they're not going to pick up
Sure.
that much. So you'll be in a better situation. But pinpointing it will be more difficult. But if you can get within a certain range, you dig a big hole, so and you can go perpendicular to it. It might work for you. I mean, it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
The
6 feet kind
TM800
of deep, Yeah.
Yeah, well, the problem is that's probably pushing it. I mean, I had one, and it would detect that maybe at it would probably be pushing it. But it's worth a try if you could find someone that had one. Also, I think Fisher makes one. Fisher made one that with 2 box, and there's a couple other places.
Yeah, I know.
They're
I saw
not that popular.
Diggers using one on the Diggers show. They were trying to find something from Steve Jobs' time capsule or something, and that he buried on his first mouse was in there or something, and they were going around with this big unit, that had two things on it, and I don't think it really was that effective. They didn't find it with that. They found it with a backhoe, I think.
Right.
But
backhoe.
yeah, I mean, it was on one of their shows, on one of their seasons. But that's good. Are you gonna in the chat section? Maybe you can post your address or your phone number or something, or your website, whatever. And I can get in touch with you if I have to. Possibility of renting one or something, But I haven't even been in touch with this guy again. I just sent him back a reply and said that's a little really out of my range of what I do, but I'll ask some questions. And you were the first person I could really talk to about it. And I'm kind of glad I just looked at the show for a second there to see what was going on, and saw you were on there. So
hey, Carl,
it opens up an interesting possibility.
Fred.
Yes.
We put that in the chat. His website is easyradarusa.com.
Okay. Yeah, I can access the chat. I can get it from there. But that's really good, and you'll have information in there about the possibility of renting them and so forth.
Yeah, and also you can you fill out the contact form, and I'll be glad to communicate with you and discuss other options and stuff and help you out as much as I can.
That's
because there's other options also.
It's very interesting. I know that's a whole other area specialty, and that has its uses, especially with finding graves, because
right, it's a tool, and different tools for different uses. So and you sometimes use a combination of tools, So it's just there's
one that
radar has it.
Very specific, and you're not going to get that with a normal metal detector. So that's where that tool really fits into its niche. Well,
right,
so,
right.
Well, thank you for your answering those questions, and have a good show the rest of the time. All right,
anytime.
It's very interesting talking to you, and have a good night. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thanks for calling, Fred.
You. Hey, thanks, Fred.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, have a good show.
Carl,
right.
I had one question here. What's the size and weights of your units?
My unit is about it's about 19 inches by 14 inches. It's actually, I put it in a Pelican type case, so it's waterproof, and it's also mill standard case, so it's pretty shockproof. And so that's the unit itself. What you can do with that unit is you can tow it just with a line. What I use is a piece of PVC and a hook, because basically you'll be able to push it backwards with that. With a line, of course, you can't do that. You have to turn around. So, if I'm dragging it through some area, and then I'll use an Android tablet that's real small, and or I'm actually, you can use a heads-up display or something if you're fancy about it. So you can just walk along with that. Now, the encoder that I have only works with the cart, so I'm actually just about finished on a coder that will go on the radar unit. But a lot of people like to use the cart because it just holds your display also, and it actually has a couple of cup holders for a couple of beers or whatever you're drinking. So
yeah,
it's just nice. It's just nice to have the carts, folds up real nice. It's real convenient. The unit kind of glides over. It spins from the cart, so it kind of glides over things pretty well. And it only weighs about 9 pounds, the unit. So it's fairly light. It's easy to drag.
Man, that is pretty light.
Yeah, my unit is actually one of the lightest units available. With the cart and the Android tablet, it's only up to about 16 pounds or so. It's very, very light. So you can just, and it all folds up, so you can fold it up and stick it in your, not quite a trunk. If you want to disassemble it, you take the Android off of it, but an SUV or something or a truck, just, put it in the back, just real easily, strap it down with a bungee cord. I carry mine around. I'm just ready to go. I can take mine out, be ready to go on the ground in 3 minutes, so.
Yeah, I seen the one on your Facebook page that had the cart and it folded up and stuff. See, what I'm trying to do is trying to talk Loy into buying one. And of course, we need the cart too. So,
yeah.
What's the average price on a beginner GPR? So,
well, my retail price is $41.95 for the unit, and then the coder is $450, and then you can go with an Android tablet or a notebook, and you can also buy those yourself. Now, if you buy them through me, I load the software on for you, put all the filters on, set it up for you real nice, and so that there's an advantage to that. And then the cart, I sell for about, I have to check my website, but I sell for about $600. The thing is, like I said, you can build your own cart. I actually use a baby jogger. That's the most economical thing. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel, as you say, because it's they lend themselves real well. They're collapsible. They're built pretty well. The wheels are, fast disconnects. You can't beat them for the price, and the parts are available. So I give people the option to, buy your own at Walmart, and I'll basically show you how to make the parts, so you can save money there. So, but if you want to buy the whole system together, I also give a discount on the package deal. And I usually give about 10-20% off at least. So, and I've got a soft spot for diggers and relic hunters. So.
Well, that sounds good. Here in Middle Tennessee, we're talking. Well, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. So 7, he's going to buy it all. And I'll push it around, and then of course I'll let him dig the first bottle. Then I'll start digging after that. So.
There you go. Yeah, you'll do lots of digging. But,
I tell you what, Carl, you have been a great guest tonight. There's no doubt.
Thanks. Thanks. I appreciate your time.
I think it's been a very interesting show. We've had a lot of callers. We've had a lot of great questions and everything that have been asked. And you've given out a wealth of information. Go ahead and give everybody your website, your Facebook, and stuff like that so they know how to get in touch with you.
Sure. The website is www.easyradarusa.com, and it's also under EasyRad. If you see that list, EasyRadUSA.com. But Easy Radar I also purchased that also. And my Facebook page is under the same Easy Radar USA. And also, if you'd like, you can look at my personal site, which is under my name, Karl with a K, Harrar, Harrar, and you can look at my personal site, which I list a lot of my finds on there. I need to transfer a lot of those over to the business site too, but my personal site has a lot of my finds on there, and so that's the best way to get a hold of me. If you go to the site, just fill out the contact info, and I usually respond to people within hours, so I try to respond real quickly.
Sounds good to me. You got anything else, Jeff?
Okay.
No, I'm just wondering when you're going to get one, and then I can't wait to find these privies and stuff. All these hut sites around here, you know how to.
Yeah, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a report on this hut site I'm going to, because I'm really going to do it real soon. And I want to take some videos and stuff. And so I know there's huts, and I know there's definitely cribies there. So it's there's been hundreds and hundreds of buttons found and belt buckles, not hundreds of belt buckles, but a few belt buckles. So it was a serious camp. So it's real exciting. So I'll watch my site for that.
Whenever you get all of those things, be sure that you come over to Relics Radio on Facebook, the group site.
Okay.
And you can post all of that.
Okay, good. No, that'd be great. Love to.
Well, like I say, it's been a pleasure having you on, Jeff or Denny. Y'all got anything else?
Pleasure also.
No, just it's been our honor, Carl, and then I mean we're going to have you on again one day after we get ours, and then
I'll have updates to my units and much more finds, and maybe I can, like I said, I would love to, since your area is relics and tent pits and smaller relics, buckles and things like that, and shells, and I mean there's all different things, but I once I get that unit done, I'd like to come back on and show you some improvements.
Yeah, just
we'd love to.
Yeah, just let us know.
Okay, super.
Okay, hang on the line. I'm going to close the show out, and then we'll chat with you for just a minute and get some information to send you a T-shirt as well. Thanks, guys, everybody in the chat, all of the callers that we had tonight. And as we always do, we want to mention the other metal detecting shows on Spreaker. There's Beyond Sight and Sound on Sunday and Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. American Digger Relic Roundup on Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. All Metal Mode Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. The History Seekers Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. And Hardcore Metal Detecting Thursday night and Saturday night at 8 o'clock. And be sure and catch us next week. We're going to have a pre-Chattanooga, Tennessee show where we will have Butch Holcomb from American Digger, and we'll have Heath and Scott from the History Seekers, and me and Jeff will be there, and we'll talk about the remote shows that we're going to do July the 28th, which is a Saturday. These will be special shows that we're going to do at the Chattanooga Relic Show. And obviously, we will be back on next Thursday night at 8 p.m. and hope you join us then. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Relics Radio. We really do appreciate it. Be sure and join us live each Thursday night at 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern here on Spreaker. Or you can catch the archive show at Relics Radio on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. Please take a minute and hit the like button and be sure and follow us so that you'll get notifications of all of our upcoming broadcasts. You can also find us on YouTube at Digging with Seven or Tennessee Jeff, or you can check us out on our Relics Radio Facebook page. If you'd like to get in touch with us, then send an email to diggingwith7@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We hope you'll join us next Thursday night, and until then, get out there and dig some history.